Hello. Look who I have here, Jen McGuinness.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Greg.
It's great to see you.
Absolutely. Busy day?
This is a live one-on-one. Well, it's not a busy day for me compared to you. You're like everywhere. We're doing a live. We're at the MBA conference. This is the first kind of live I've done.
Yeah?
And if we have any technical difficulties, I know Nayung will jump in here and she'll right this ship. But I'm assuming right now we're good to go. So much to cover. We're here at the Marriott Marquis. This is where the MBA secondary conference is being held. How's it going so far?
Good. Been a long day so far. I think I got here at 7 a.m. So back to back. I literally just ran up the escalator to see you.
I know. You're not
Yeah.
sweating for some reason. I don't know why that is.
Luck? I don't know.
I would be sweating my ass off if I was moving like that up an escalator, but it's very crowded here. Turnout seems pretty good. I want to start off with a roundtable that I participated in today. It's my favorite room
Mhm.
in housing. I know that Housing Wire has the most powerful room in housing, but I would argue that the group that Steve Grossman puts together of industry leaders is among the most impactful. And I took some great notes, and there were just probably 40 to 50 people in a room. Going to show you all a picture of it right now of what it looked like in there. And this doesn't even do it justice. There's many C-suite folks in mortgage were in there. It's a 90-minute affair, and he does it twice a year,
Yeah.
once at secondary and once at MBA annual. He's got attorneys in there, tech people, couple of vendors, lots of C-suites, people that run companies, and just a lot of experience, just a breadth of experience. And some of the things that were covered today, which I'm totally catching Jen off guard here. You can bring the picture down, Nayang. I'm just going to throw a few things at you. Don't be looking
for
don't
it.
be looking at my notes. Don't do
I
that.
can't read your handwriting
You
anyway.
are, but you are. It's not quite as bad as a physician's handwriting. Trust me.
True. I'll give you that.
I'm married to a physician, and I can tell you it's illegible. These people cannot write. Thankfully, they can diagnose pretty well. But speaking of diagnosing, I'll try and segue into this somehow. I'm just going to kick around some topics that we discussed today. One of them is just the learning curve when it comes to AI. And what I mean by that is just a lot of talk about, the biggest use case example was Vesta, which is an LOS, is replacing Encompass at AFN.
Okay.
That's AFN's a company that's been around for a while. It's decent size,
Yep.
and they're days away. And the gentleman from AFN that was speaking was talking about how they just don't know mortgage at all. Like they're just really smart tech people. And there's we started to talk about this conversation that tech people, you just have to be wary of them because they get into the space and you basically have to put training wheels on them and show them how AI can function in a mortgage world. What are your thoughts on that?
So I think it depends on which tech people. I wouldn't say all tech people know nothing about mortgage. I would say that the expertise in mortgage and the depth of expertise is very different when you're sitting in a lender, an aggregator, rating agency,
Yeah.
a bond investor. But I've spoken about this before. LLMs and other types of AI-related models are only as good as the data you put into them, what the output is, and how you refine and test that output. Without that, you're really not going to get the lift you think you're supposed to get. And then you also have to make sure that your data is not going out into the universe. So you got to have the right levels of encryption and protection to use these models well.
Yeah, and it's a big move for AFN. I mean, going to Vesta. I don't know a lot about Vesta. It was interesting because there were a couple of people from Vesta there. Meanwhile, the AFN C-suite was talking about how Vesta doesn't quite know mortgage that well. So it's kind of an interesting, awkward moment there. But that'll be interesting.
But was the context that, AFN was working with them to teach them mortgage so they could get a lift when they transition?
Yes, exactly. That it's
Right,
this has been going on for months
Yeah.
and months and months. And one of the questions was, well, LOs, they don't like change. We know that LOs typically don't like change at all. And so the question was, well, how do you wean them into the software? And he said, well, as a matter of fact, we've been showing them little nuances as we go. So, and he claims that as they've been going, that the LOs have been yearning for more. Hey, you showed me these 3 or 4 things that are different than what we have now. When are we finally getting it all? And I guess that's good, right? Because we've heard a lot of nightmares about
Yeah.
LOSs and LOs pushing back.
Yeah, no, listen, I'm happy to hear that they have been phasing it in slowly. I think also not only the LOs, but if they're truly replacing and it's truly a full LOS, right, then they also have to make sure that it works through the entire cycle of the origination process. You know, intake, LO, pricing, hedging, underwriting, condition clearing, pre-close, closing, and trailing docs, also pricing on the back end, final pricing, right?
Yeah.
Post condition final pricing. And, you know, look, I think there are a lot of people that are going to try and work with different technologies in order to get a lift. The question is going to be in the long run, is that lift going to be worth it, right? And do they get actually only a lift out of it? If they didn't do that full life cycle assessment, you may find it costs them money at certain phases.
You've been in the business for how long now? In
My
what,
29th year,
in one facet or another?
although I don't like to admit that out
You know what?
loud.
I think we got into the business around the same time because I'm coming up on 29th-ish too.
Yeah.
I think I got in like the fall of '96.
Yeah, so I'm right after you. So you're at 29 years too.
I know. We're
Nice,
like,
29 years.
yeah, Wonder Twin Powers activate. 60 years of mortgage experience sitting at this table right now. Who would have ever thought?
But we look good.
Yeah. Well, you look good. I don't know about myself. All right. So I want to talk about more things that we talked about in this room. NBA, according to Matthew Van Fossen, who's I believe he's part of Resbog, and you know he's on the NBA ladder. He's at Absolute, and he's got tech software himself.
Yep.
And he was talking about how the NBA has been talking about this idea of, does the industry want agentic agents to be able to take loan applications? And they're going back and forth and they're not sure. And he basically said that the NBA is looking for direction from IMBs on whether or not we want that or not. I will say for me personally, I don't want that. I think that the relationship between an LO and a borrower is sacred. I think that intake is great. It's no problem. But I think when you get to the social security number and quoting rates, that really needs to me be where the human touch remains. What are your
think that
thoughts?
goes to making sure your back ends are properly, put together and the basic security and infrastructure is protective. But, something similar to this is being tested right now in legal cases. So there are bots that called, borrowers for refinances, as
Yeah.
an example. They did not realize that they were speaking to bots until such time that they were far into the call. There's a legal case that's ongoing right now with regard to that. I think, even though that's not the same thing as taking in an application, et cetera, I do think the manner in which legal findings come back with regard to these automated bots is going to help shape how comfortable people are going to be with those types of agents,
How
bots,
comfortable
et cetera.
should the industry be with it? Like, what does the industry look like?
but there's an argument. Yeah.
If we have 200,000 loan officers now, whatever the number is, and a finite amount of those are actually doing loans. If we transition to a world where bots are able to take loan applications, then everything changes. Will there even be a need for loan officers anymore?
Yeah, but I think there's two arguments that could be made there. It also could free up those loan officers to do that many more loans, which could be actually a lift for them, right? It could also help smaller lenders come up the curve faster. And in theory, with bots, you can also record every type stroke, every feature to be able to go back and QC differently than you QC today versus manual entry, right? So I think there's a case that can be made that there's positive and negative concepts to all those discussions.
All right, so check this out. I had no idea. I want to know if you knew this.
Yeah.
James Brody, that's the
Yeah,
attorney,
I know
right? So
Brody.
he's a California attorney.
Yep.
And he said that any AI interactions, so for instance, loan officers just on their own GPT, everything is discoverable in a court of law.
That is true. So there was a finding in a legal case that even if a loan officer employed by a company that has a handbook and policies and procedures that says you do not load XYZ data into a AI engine, if a loan officer loads it, it is now discoverable in litigation.
Even if it's not open AI.
even if it's not
So if
OpenAI.
I'm on, for instance, I'm on Claude. I pay for the highest subscription to that. That's all discoverable. Anything I'm asking it to do in a court of law, that can be brought up. And the reason I bring that up is because everyone needs to be really careful and have governors around that. But then again, Jen, it's so much easier to monitor that because it's all on a machine somewhere. Like one of the biggest uncertainties around mortgage is the conversations that LOs have with consumers that nobody can record, that are never recorded, where it's a he said, she said stuff. And that is a 50-50 toss up if something ever goes to court. For instance, a loan officer, a borrower might claim that a loan officer told the borrower, go ahead and skip 3 mortgage payments, right?
Yeah.
Just giving you an out of the box.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden their home's foreclosed on and they go back. Then it's a he said, she said. But in the instance of AI, you actually have something very material that can be drawn back in. So how big, if you're running a mortgage company or you advise lots of mortgage companies right now,
Yeah.
what would you tell them about how careful they need to be? And do you have any suggestions around how they can try as best as they can to keep this under control?
So there are some enterprise encrypted versions of these AI system offerings. The problem is they're very expensive, right? So your smaller and mid-sized lender are literally going to chatgpt.com or copilot.com and using these engines, but what they don't realize is anything they load into them, all those programming agents can now use it, to come up with the next algorithmic outcome on the GPT or whichever one you're in. So, there are enterprise encrypted versions. I would say if you're going to put anything in that's PII, you need that encrypted resource.
What's PII?
Personally identifiable
Just
information.
making sure we don't want to accident people to death.
And then I apologize. But anyway, and you want to make sure that you have policies and procedures and you really police that. Internal audit on steroids, for lack of a better way of saying it. But remember, that's expensive.
All right, here's another thing that came out today, and I know nothing about this. You may know something about it. By the way, will you scoot closer to me? I want you a little closer to me.
And you feel to love in this room.
I love this woman. She's amazing. We're going to do amazing things together, and I'm so happy you're with us on this one-on-one from Times Square. This is the first one we've ever done.
New York.
Live from Times Square, live from New York. This is better than Saturday Night Live. All right, so I'm going to just hit the periphery on this note because I barely understood it. The room of executives that were in this private roundtable today that I took part in, and that's where these reference points come from, we're saying that there are DBAs being created by maybe Rocket and some of these big servicers now to mask where loans are going in terms of servicing. Have you heard anything about this?
Yeah, but you can peel back in at DBA. I can get to who the owner of all the entities are very quickly.
You can.
Yeah.
First of all, is this happening?
Lenders in general have DBAs, right? So I would not be surprised that there's DBAs for servicing.
Yeah.
I will tell you, depending upon licensing and the types of products that are being originated, this is not a new thing.
All right, let's get to the shit show that is interest rates, can we?
Yes.
Barry Habib is just a wonderful man. He is an icon. Of course, he's got MBS Highway, which a lot of people turn to figure out whether to lock, whether to float. And earlier today, Nayang, cue it up. Earlier today, Barry had an alert. This is about 40 minutes ago. This is literally an hour old where Barry talks about, quote unquote, how it's getting very disheartening. And he urges LOs to lock. Go ahead and play the sound, Nayang.
Hey, Barry Habib, MBS Highway. It is 11:47 a.m. Eastern Time. Unfortunately, it's an alert to lock here again, guys. And this really is, it's obviously getting very disheartening. But mortgage bonds are only down one tick, but they were up this morning. If you listen to the update, we talked about the fear of if the 10-year broke above the ceiling of resistance at the Fibonacci level. Pull up the chart, you'll see it, the 23.6 Fibonacci level. It had been a good level. We're breaking above that now. So violating that ceiling, the mortgage bonds, again, as I mentioned, only down 1 basis point. But from when pricing came out, anywhere from like 12 to 18 basis points. So puts lenders in reprice territory. Once again, we've been locking just about every freaking day. So you should be well protected. But just in case, this is an alert to lock here and based on some technical factors more than anything else. Hope things get better for us quickly. You guys have a great day.
So Barry's message, lock. He called the direction of the 10-year yield very disheartening. I think we all would agree on that. And he talked about the resistance level, the ceiling being burst through, and how it's very concerning. Where do you stand right now? It seems like, look, I voted for Trump. I did. I voted for him because I felt like the Biden administration didn't do much for housing. And granted, a lot of these guys are, they are victims of circumstance. They come in the instance of Biden. I mean, COVID hit, and we had a bustling economy, and then we had a situation where rates had to be elevated to a great deal. Trump came in. I figured, you know what? Biden didn't do much of anything that I could see. Maybe you feel differently. Let's go for Trump, right? He's pro making money, but this Iran thing, it absolutely feels like a rudderless ship, and it's really upsetting. It's upsetting for the mortgage industry. There's a lot of elements to this. First of all, loss of life is paramount. That's the number one
Agreed.
thing, and we pay homage to people serving overseas. That's for sure. But reeling it back into the world that we operate in every day in mortgage, where does it end? And I saw something earlier, I guess this weekend. I wrote about it where some experts are saying that we could be headed to 8% fixed.
I think that's a little too high, but I think we could very reasonably be heading into the sevens sooner than later or right below it. In full disclosure, I have not seen Barry's video, and I also couldn't hear it here. So I'm just going to talk about, in general. I don't ever want to see a 459, it's 60. I don't love that we've gotten above that 460. The 10 years an issue for sure. Limbo on this Iran thing and, traveling all over God's creation to have discussions, not to mention all the recorded discussions with China, is not helping us right now. Resolutions need to come, or I do believe, sadly, we're going to be heading into that, close to 7 or sub 7 range. And that is nothing that any of us want to be living in the mortgage industry.
We're pushing at 7 right now. So
agreed. We are just under. We're a little bit under.
You get to a bond at 5%, and you're looking at rates.
Yeah, I mean, even
8.
Yeah.
So let's just theoretically talk about what an 8% climate looks like for mortgage. What happens? How do the wheels just completely stop moving, or do you think business keeps churning?
I think if we're in an 8% environment, we're also in a much higher inflation or an inflation moving in the wrong direction environment. And that's not good for our country in general. Forget about just mortgage. I think everybody is predicting that rates should be increased in this next, a rate hike should occur. I'll tell you, I watched a session today with BofA and JP on it, and they actually are saying they believe a hike will happen, but they think it'll happen in July, not in June. With that said, I mean, this is not where we want to be right now. I think we all thought we would be in a much different place, especially with spending 200, through the GSEs. And really all we got was like a 25 bip that's now come back, and we really didn't get enough lift out of that.
We were in such a good spot. We were
moving in the right direction.
All these years. I mean, how long has it been since we've had an epic run? I'm not talking about like COVID epic run. I mean, like where things are just humming along. It really seemed like we were on that path.
We were moving into that 5s range. I think we were moving into the right direction.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that we are this high, mid to high 6s is not where we thought we would be.
Oh, and it doesn't bode well for those companies that made big bets. I'm not going to name any names, but in this little window of this pocket of 6 to 8 months, there were a lot of acquisitions, some people getting back into wholesale, making bets that we were about to go on a run. And now, lo and behold, they're going to have to start pretty soon looking at what's going to happen in the winter. So when do you start planning for the winter? June, July, right?
Yeah, I mean, remember, we're supposed to be hobnobbing right now, right?
Yeah.
This is supposed to be our season, and it's not.
I want to go back to AI for a minute. I want to pull up something that Vishal Garg posted on LinkedIn. This was just a couple of days ago. Actually, I caught it on the train yesterday on my way up from DC. Unfortunately, my phone is being used for this, so I can't read what's up there, but I'm going to paraphrase to say that Vishal was pointing out that there is a growing, humongous issue when it comes to AI falsifying documentation, pay stubs, W-2s, assets, and he pointed out, I think it was probably a pro Tin Man thing, like you need AI to be looking for those that are speeding using AI. Any sense of this issue, how big of an issue it is, and how concerned are you about folks drumming up falsifying documents that could turn into a loan,
I mean,
more so than ever?
the sad reality is falsification of documents is not new. There were some really well done falsification of documents before AI, and things you would never be able to detect with AI. So there's the sales pitch conversion for AI, and then there's stuff you're never going to detect. Some of the AI is so good that if you literally put a prompt in there, it make this look like this and make sure that no AI engine can identify this. It can do that too. So I
That is
think
so
that,
frightening.
you wanna take it with a grain of salt. Do your math. The one thing I'll tell you is if you attempt to do this, AI engines are only as good as the person trying to perpetuate the fraud. Just like you could with, fraudulent bank statements previously, or, pay stubs or whatnot. Add up your numbers. Do they sync? Even in the AI village of fraudulent documentation, a lot of the times they don't. So do your diligence, people.
There's always been fraud, like you said, but
There's always been fraud.
normally those involved, X-Acto knives and taking a 0, turning it into an 8, and if you look close enough, you can see it. But these are like perfect documents.
No, but even if you had Adobe Writer, which I'm sure I'll get some sort of note from Adobe for saying that, you you could open up documents and make changes to them previously. That's not an AI engine, right? You can do that. Think about the typeability into DocuSign that exists for people. It's all, there are things that have been able to manipulate documents previously, and this is not new, right? There's always going to be people that try to do things dishonestly, sadly. Our job is to be as diligent as we possibly can in the manufacturing of loans.
Yeah. So, Jen, we're here at the MBA Secondary Conference. What are you working on these days? What's on your radar that we haven't discussed?
Multi-lender securitization. So we are working on a strategy where we're going to take the small and mid-sized lenders and give them the same liquidity as the big guys, especially in the consolidation of everything that you are watching. Lenders need that in order to be able to retain their borrowers.
Is that the same idea that you told us about before, where you get smaller lenders that are able to service through some conglomerate, some combination?
So it's the same thing as a standard securitization with a AAA rating, except the difference is instead of it being like a PennyMac or an AmeriHome only or a JP only, we're going to take multiple lenders to get to deal size and provide that deal execution to the secondary market.
So who owns the refi at that point if you do that?
The lenders that originated the loans.
Okay. You've heard that question before.
I have.
Yeah. All right. See, I listened when you talk.
Yeah.
You have a hard stop at 1:30, right?
Yeah, I got to go.
Yes,
I got some
about
other
7.
things. So do you.
We have about six, 7 more minutes here. These are my notes. This is what I've written down. So I'll let you wax for a moment about what you think the mortgage industry should be looking at right now that we haven't covered.
I think, I think everybody's talking about the consolidation of all these different entities combining. I think you're starting to see guys that have never swung back swing. Rocket's lawsuit, for example, against UWM. I mean, talk about timing with regard to their broker day, as an example. I think you wrote about that on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I think you're starting to see, the gloves come off and people go, all right, I'm not loving the place we are in the industry. Let's go make sure that our dollars stay in play. Let's make sure that the money that we've spent on these entities is real. Let's make sure that we're going to really be able to retain these borrowers. But the one thing I will say that I disagree with is just because your servicing may now be in one of these consolidated entities, lenders, you have not lost the opportunity to refi those borrowers. You have not lost the borrower. You need the data and the information, and you can still retain those borrowers. So make sure you get with the people that know how to do that.
Do you feel like Matt Ishbia has a lot of people rooting against him?
There's a lot of things going on, especially as it pertains to Two Harbors and a lot of dissections of, public filings and things like that. I think Matt's a smart guy, but I think that sometimes his stance on things is not well received by the market. And I think that, sometimes when you're the guy that just doesn't care and wants to get it done, and I don't mean that he doesn't care about borrowers or brokers or the industry. I mean, he's going to say, this is how I'm doing it, sign up or not. When you have that personality, sometimes people love to hate you. And I think right now, some of the headlines and some of the back and forth is loving to hate on him right now.
Is he being treated unfairly?
I think it depends on which component of the analysis you dissect.
Don't avoid it, Jen. Come on. What is
Do
your,
I think,
what is your,
I'm going to cut to the chase because I know which next question. Do I think UWM is going away? No.
how do you read my mind like that?
Because I've known you for quite some time.
That is amazing. Wow. Okay.
I knew it was going there.
That was well done. Now I'm like totally stumped.
See, I'm like, cut to the chase.
I'm speechless. Before we disconnect here, I love what you put out on LinkedIn. If you're not following Jen McGuinness, you must. You had a post the other day, basically saying to UWM and Cross Country, the two bidding for the Two Harbors business, stop already. It's not worth this. It's not worth the write down from the amount of servicing to what they're selling it for and all the debt they would take on. And your message to both of them was, call me. There's an easier way.
Absolutely.
Can you expound on that, and in a way, in a manner that everyone will be able to understand?
Yeah. So if UWM really is only after the servicing, they can aggregate the servicing from elsewhere. CCM wants the rest of the company and the servicing. They could take two, and they both can accomplish their tasks.
It's that simple.
It's that simple.
You and I have a show coming up soon.
I heard that rumor.
Yeah, and it's going to be a good show. I'm not sure when we're launching. It's not soon enough. I love my time with you. It's going to be sort of like noise versus reality kind of thing. And I'm a noise guy. You're more of a reality gal. So it'll be interesting.
I think it's going to be a great show.
Me too. I'm looking forward to it.
Me
Stay
too.
tuned for more details. We're going to get it up and off the ground as soon as we possibly can. And maybe I give everybody a little perspective from New York.
Definitely.
This is what we're doing right now. This is here's a little picture of what's happening here at Times Square, in Times Square. Lots of mortgage folks here. And this is just the bar scene, Jen.
Yeah.
You've got to go.
Yep.
I've got to go. We've got to go. Hope you've enjoyed this live one-on-one from Times Square. Take care, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thank
Have
you,
a great
Nayoung.
day.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Nayoung.